local. This is Fox 12 Now.
And hello, everyone. I'm Greg Nibbler. This is Fox 12 Now. Appreciate all of you joining us here. As always, we are live streaming on our app, on our website, and of course the social media channels. So you can join in the conversation if you want to, share the show, all of that. We get to cover a wide range of topics here on the show. And today, we're going to talk about the Portland Film Festival, which is debuting this week, starting on October 12th. And one of the films in particular is called Older Than the Crown. And we are going to be joined right now by the director, Derek Lemire, to talk about this film. It's a pretty amazing documentary, fascinating story about an Indigenous tribe in Canada and everything that goes along with that. I'm gonna let Derek explain this better than me. But Derek, first off, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Greg. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Off the record, Derek and I have known each other for a long time, so I'll just say that. So, but we're here to talk about your film and everything that you've done with this, which is it really is incredible. And I think to give everybody some context, can you go back to the beginning of maybe the first time that you heard about this story, about what was going on, and then we'll lead into that, into why you wanted to create a documentary about it.
Yeah. So this started for me in 2016 when I finished, or 2017 when I finished my first documentary. I was kind of trying to figure out what's next and looking at different projects. And the Caldwell Confederated Tribes, they're the tribe out here in near Spokane, Washington, or a couple miles out. They're most northern tribe, the Sinaiaks, I'm actually a part of. That's my great-grandfather's tribe. They, at one point, were recognized by Canada. About 80% of their traditional territory was in Canada and 20% here in the U.S. And in 1956, we were declared extinct after being pushed below the border. And I've kind of floated around this idea for a while, and the tribes kind of saw my last film, and it was really cool. They just reached out and said, like, hey, we don't want anyone else to do it. Are you willing to do it? And the first thing I did is I went to Canada, checked it out, went into our territory where my grandpa and everybody used to hunt and all that stuff. And I was like, man, I can't have anyone else do this. So that's kind of how it started. And from there, I just developed it with the tribe.
Well, I mean, that's got to be a pretty incredible feeling that they approached you, and the fact that, this is where your grandfather was hunting, that this is, your history as well.
Yeah. It was a pretty wild story for our family. My grandpa, of course, he grew up in the area, but he also fought in World War II, and that was during the time where, all of these things were happening. The dissolution of the tribe from Canada all the way until 1956, but also the Grand Coulee Dam flooded our traditional territory. So like our family's homeland, our land in particular, was on the Columbia River. And then when the dam flooded that area, he left. There was nothing left for him on that, on that reservation. So I just kept trying to think about what his story was, what he was going through. So we had this missed history for a long time. So this was kind of cool for me, on top of telling Rick's story, Rick Desautel, who the movie's about. It's kind of a cool rediscovery for myself, and also trying to help connect some dots for my family as well. So there's a little bit of selfishness in there to where, took this opportunity to learn a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's even selfish. You're also getting the story out, and everybody's story there that may have been lost with, like you mentioned, the flooding of the dam and everybody being moved around. That would be something that's pretty easy to be lost to history, unless somebody digs into that and shares it. You mentioned, though, the subject of the film. I wondered if you could, tell us about that, who this film really follows as kind of the main, I guess, protagonist, I suppose, in it.
Yeah. So in 2010, the Caldwell Confederated Tribes worked with Rick, and we had a series of altercations with Canada, whether it was we took them to court on multiple occasions. There's separate civil suits, but also blockades and things like that. None of it worked. So what we didn't do was really rely on our traditions. And this guy went up there, Rick Desautel, who was a retired wildlife enforcement agent for the tribe. He was also at all of these blockades, so he's seen this whole process in the last 40 years or so. But he went up to Canada on the advice of the tribe, went up to Canada and went and shot an elk and harvested an elk, and then did something that I don't think anybody really would volunteer to do, but he did, which was call the cops on himself. So what the reasoning for that was he, the tribe wanted to put the the government of Canada on the hot seat and say like, hey, I know you say that we're extinct and that we're not recognized in Canada, but now you have to prove it. Prove this guy doesn't have these traditional rights in that area. So this story is from, about Rick Desautel in the last 12 years of his fight in the court system, starting with this hunting case.
That's called it on himself. I mean, that's a kind of a brilliant move to use the system against the government there, and figure out a way to make that happen. So, and I don't want to spoil anything in the documentary, but talking about it and exploring that side of it, we do have some footage here too. Tell us about this part of it. Is this footage that you shot? Did you find this? I mean, obviously this covers a large range of time.
Yeah. So the footage that you're seeing right there is some of it's from archival footage from Canada, but also this is the blockade that Rick was at in 1989. And that was when Rick and some elders, or I guess the elders, discovered and called on Rick and a few other people to go up and basically protect this burial ground that people had been trampling over, bulldozing over because they were building a road. So that's kind of where it started for Rick, was in 89, got called up to Canada to go block these people from destroying some really sacred sites. Our old pit houses were there, burial grounds along the river. See, it gets even worse where in Canada, it was almost a sport to go pot hunting is what they call it, because they used to bury us in pots facing the river, but it was almost like a sport of sense where people would go through and rob these graves. And that's what Rick and them were up there. We're like, we've had enough. Not only are you going to stop doing that, but you're also going to give us, repatriate these bones and consult with us. And that was the start of it. And of course, it gets wilder down the road, but yeah, that's just the start of Rick's journey.
What was, for you, one of the most, I think, it's probably hard to even quantify one thing, but if you could pick out like one of the most interesting things you discovered during this documentary, would there be something that stands out?
I think for me, it was how normal it was. I just spoke of this grave robbing, but it was almost celebrated. And it's, there's a couple of books out that I don't want to actually promote too much, but they talk about meeting these people and talking about, like, do you have any interest in returning the bones or returning these artifacts you stole from these people's graves? And they said no. And then they said, oh, this guy's really nice. This is kind of like a nice thing for him to do on a Sunday. And I'm like, things like that, how normal that is up there. And of course, it's changed because of that blockade and some of the changes that happened after that. But we had absolutely no protections over our homelands, but our burial grounds, like that blockade and what happened right after that was actually the first time where Canada actually put some laws in place for Indigenous peoples in their traditional lands.
That's infuriating. Wow. So that's good though, getting that exposed and getting that out there and just saying this is what happened. This can't be denied. This went on.
Yeah, it's really strange. Like, of course, you're telling me what are some of the things you're so surprised about, and that was the first one to where I'm like, this sounds like from hundreds of years ago something that would have happened, but this was literally happening up until the 90s, if not still now. But, there's also a lot of hope in this film. That was another mission that I had with this. Like, we can talk about these traumas that our tribe and, many other Indigenous tribes go through, but we also talk about, despite all of this stuff, we kept winning, we kept putting in the work. We still persevered, and we're here right now. We're older than the crown. We predate a lot of these guys, so it's nice to survive all of this and, continuing on with great work.
Well, with this documentary, with this film out there, what has it been like for you to see the reception from, I guess, not only, Indigenous people who are getting to see it and getting to see this story told, but also everybody else who's now getting to watch this? What's that feeling like?
I think I've talked to you this before. When you're working by yourself and you're working on this project and you're carrying some of this heavy stuff, plus learning, about your family and about these lost history, you have a really hard time thinking like, well, people like this. Is this just for me? Am I making a movie for myself? But getting out there, we, of course, pre-COVID, we had a half-hour version of this that came out, and we sold out every theater. We had 500-seat theaters, and, got the attention of Vision Maker, who's PBS's Native American content subsidiary. And, they optioned our film to continue on after that. Like that was the thing where I'm like, as a documentary filmmaker, you never know who's going to watch your movie or who's going to appreciate it. But when you get the attention of people like PBS and Vision Maker and have the ability to show on 98% of, America, and, tens of millions of people might see this thing, is pretty insane to me, where I was just working in my house during the pandemic trying to get this thing done. But on top of just that kind of mind melting, idea, being able to show the Sinaiaks people that, we can tell this story. We're putting this work in there, and that hopefully it's a reflection of my heart and what went into this film. And I'm just so lucky that people want to keep seeing it. I've been very lucky with the film festivals and other people like colleges. I'm at Bellevue College right now. Like, they supported me through the pandemic and did screenings through Zoom and things like that. But I haven't been able to show this film in Portland. So I was, when PDX Film Festival or Portland Film Festival reached out, I was like, man, this is really cool, because I lived in Portland for 30 years. Like, it's nice to come home, have you guys see it, have my mom see it. And I'm just super excited about it.
And for that too, I want to emphasize for everybody, so it is part of the Portland Film Festival, which is starting on Thursday. I don't know if you have the show dates or times that you can share. I'm not sure if you do or not. I'm not sure how that works. But I know it is at the film festival.
Sunday night at they have a special Pearl District Theater that they have going on. They're showing at the Kennedy School as well. But if you go on their website, it has updated listings. I think it changed a little bit just for adjustment, but I think we're the main show on one of the nights. I believe it's Sunday. And
I guess one last thing with this too, just talking about it for anybody here in Portland now who realizes they have a chance to go see this, in the theater. What should they expect or know walking into this?
It's. I know I spoke about guilt or tough history to learn. Be ready to learn and unlearn some stuff. There's a lot of things people expect out of Native communities, what we expect out of, this ever-changing climate, on how we're talking now on Columbus Day, Indigenous Peoples Day. Those are some of the things that, hopefully go in with a good heart and ready to learn and unlearn some stuff. It's a tough conversation, but I think this film does a really good job at not leaning in on the pain and suffering, or, even guilting people. Like, come in to learn, come in to really celebrate the Sinaiaks people and Indigenous people in general. This court case, not just the film, is precedent setting. So hopefully people come and see it. It's widely available as well. So hopefully people will come check that out. And yeah, I'm just, like I said, just ready for people to come see it, especially in my, adopted hometown, I guess.
Yeah. And Derek, where else can people go to follow along with your work and everything else that you do? Because you mentioned, your other documentaries as well. How can they follow along with those?
Yeah, we have War Pony Pictures. We're revamping the website now. It's a home of a lot of my older films, including Nightmare at Nibblers. But we have a lot of trailers and things like that. But Instagram is really the place where I post a lot. I don't go on Facebook too much, because you can probably imagine why. But yeah, you can find me, Derek Lemire, on there. I post a lot of my films. Older Than the Crown has its own Instagram as well. But yeah, if you're interested in seeing some of those films, like, we got a lot out there. And yeah, body work is getting bigger and bigger and changing quite a bit since our first video we did a couple of years ago.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, everything that you've done. And just for context, Nightmare at Nibblers is not about anything else that we've discussed. It's about my house and whether it was haunted or not. And Derek did a video of where we went through and did the whole haunting thing. So that's out there for people to watch as well. Derek's fine work. Now everybody here in the newsroom, I can hear him saying, "What's Nightmare at Nibblers?" So you did that, Derek. All right. So, Derek, seriously, thank you very much for joining us. And honestly, though, congratulations on this. And it's clearly such a valuable piece of work, and you've done an amazing job with it. And everybody can go see it here this week in Portland in the theater, but also follow along online. And thanks for doing what you do.
Yeah, thank you so much for this opportunity to chat. Yeah, like I said, I keep saying it, but I'm just so happy that people are able to see this stuff, and it's not just me. Yeah. Just happy to see people enjoy it, man. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Derek. And for everybody joining us here too, I'll just close out here for this segment. I appreciate you all joining us. We are live here every weekday at 1 p.m. Pacific on Fox 12 Oregon's channel. So that's social media, that's apps, that's website. We get to have a lot of different discussions. If you have something that you think would make a great segment, send me an email, fox12oregon or fox12now, at kptv.com. Fox12now at kptv.com. You can send that to me, and we can see if we can, get you on here too to talk about something. Coming up here at 2 p.m., I will be joined by the Ronald McDonald House. We're going to talk about something that they're doing to help families experiencing a medical crisis. It's a new kind of wing, a new thing that they have going on. We're going to let them explain that, but that's coming up at 2, and you can follow along with all of our other interviews on the Fox 12 Oregon YouTube channel and app as well. We'll sign off for right now. I'll be back soon. I'm Greg Nibbler. This is Fox